Hello everyone. Today we are in discussion with Mr. Gaurav Parija, who is the head of sales and marketing at IDFC AMC. He has over 2 decades of experience in sales, marketing, business development, and driving strategic initiatives. He's a well-known figure in the industry. Has been with IDFC since March of 2017. Prior to joining IDFC, Mr. Parija was with Franklin Templeton Services as a director responsible for new initiatives and business development. He is an alumnus of IIM Bangalore. Gaurav, if you would like to add anything on IDFC and yourself, please go ahead. Otherwise, we
No,
dive into.
thanks, Ankit, and thank you for having us on the show. Yeah, we've obviously IDFC continues to offer solutions and propositions to clients, which hopefully you and your uh, do-it-yourself investors are finding value in.
So today we are discussing arbitrage funds. So something which the retail investors typically may not be very much aware about because most of the arbitrage fund, a lot of money, I guess, in arbitrage comes from HNI segments and all, who are much more tax savvy, versus the retail investor who is generally looking at equity funds overall. So basically, Gaurav, if you can just start giving a sense about, like, as first-time investors, how would you introduce the concept of arbitrage to them? What would you explain them to help them put money in arbitrage going forward? Why should they use it?
Sure, Ankit, I think it's a good starting question, and I think before we deep dive into the funds and the strategies, it
Mhm.
is imperative to understand what is arbitrage.
Sure.
Now, arbitrage is actually one of the oldest investment strategies used by us across not only financial markets but trading markets. Very simply put, as the word means, arbitrage is you buy an asset, be it a financial asset or a real estate or even a cow or a house in one market and sell it in a different market, all things being constant. It's that you buy a same house, a house of 1,000 square feet, and buy it in one market and sell it in the other market. Now, the question would be as to why is there a price differential in one market versus the other? Like in every trade, when someone buys and sells, the view of someone selling is different from someone who is buying. And hence, for every asset, there is a different view in various markets. And that's what causes the arbitrage. So it's like basically saying you buy a house in Agra and sell a similar house in Bhopal for a different price. And that's how there are two types of markets. One is what is called the cash market, and secondly is the derivatives market. Typically, what happens, like in every other market, like I explained, the price differential of the cash and futures or options could vary. For example, a stock, you could buy a stock in the cash market for 100 rupees, but in the derivatives market, in the futures market, the same stock could be selling at 105 rupees 1 month hence later. Why does that happen? Like I explained, because there are different views of the underlying stock people have. So I could potentially believe that the stock is worth 105 1 month later. Someone would say, no, it is not worth 105 later. And so what you typically do is you buy stock in the cash market and you sell the same stock in the futures market for 105. And what you do is effectively lock in the 5 rupees over the period of the transaction you enter, typically, which is a month, which is expiry to expiry.
Can you help the investors understand, like, what are the various places the arbitrage fund invests into, and why are these pieces required in the arbitrage fund?
So from a taxation perspective, it is important to understand that for a mutual fund to get the benefit of an equity taxation, the law states that 65% or more has to be invested in equity/equity related instruments, and the balance 35 can be invested in non-equity investments. Now, the 35% which is put away in fixed income in arbitrage is used for a combination of two things. One, when you participate in the futures market, there is a requirement of a margin, because when you buy a futures, you have to keep some money in margins. Some of the 35% is used as margin money for buying futures. Some of the money is also kept in fixed income to manage liquidity, because arbitrage funds are typically open-end funds where you can get in and get out on a daily basis. You need money to be, so for a client, when he comes in for redemptions, I need to be able to give him his redemption money within T plus 3 days. So some amount, typically basis the pattern of investment and flows we see, the fund manager keeps in fixed income instruments, and some of it is kept for margin money. That's the reason typically 30 to 35% is kept in fixed income. The margin money typically is kept in highly rated fixed deposits.
Should somebody understand that arbitrage funds are typically risk-free in nature, and when, say, these funds are investing in debt instruments, that also will not be too much risky, or you think that that has been varying across the industry, and that is something that one should also closely look at?
So it's a very good question, and typically what happens is for an investor, there is a tendency to gloss over the minor details. And the question you asked on, is there no risk in the underlying fixed income? Now, like I said, there is some component of money which goes into fixed income, and as a fund house, if I go and place that money in a A-rated fixed income instrument versus a AAA, obviously the risk changes. As a fund house, we typically always run the fixed income in a 100% AAA strategy.
Okay.
Now, when it comes to why is arbitrage funds considered risk-free, like I said in the beginning, it's a very simple trade. You are buying one asset in a particular market, which is the cash market, and selling the same asset at a certain price in the futures market. So what this means is that you are making price agnostic of whether how the market moves. To give you an example, let's say you bought stock A in cash at 100 rupees and you sold stock A in the futures market 105. So 5 rupees is what we call as the spread of the stock or the arbitrage. Now let's say after a month, typically the futures and option market expire on the last Thursday of every month. The actual stock price of A is now 90 rupees. So there are two legs of the transaction. So you bought cash at 100. So effectively you will lose rupees 10 because now you'll have to sell at 90. But given that on the second leg of the transaction you had sold it at 105, you now stand to gain 15 rupees. So net you again make 5 rupees. And that's the reason the arbitrage market typically is not related to how the market moves in the intermittent period, as long as you manage to capture the spreads. The only place where the difference of returns could come is, like you rightly pointed out, is A, how does the fixed deposit rates move? So in the recent past, we've seen the fixed deposit rates have come down. So overall returns tend to come down. And secondly, if by chance there is a challenge on the fixed income papers the fund houses hold, there could be loss of return. But most arbitrage funds in the industry today run a very, very highly credit-oriented strategies, which is AAA and equivalent.
Got it. So net, the user should understand that these are typically relatively lesser risk kind of products where the return expectation is also fairly understood in general. It's not like that you can make supernormal returns also, because it's returns that are basically fixed a month in advance, and that's what you will typically make, and that keeps rolling on every month. But it's not like if the markets move up in a massive way or fall in a massive way, you are going to get impacted on either side too much, right?
Absolutely. I think the way we would want investors to look at expectations of return is to firstly consider that arbitrage funds, in our opinion, best suited for investment horizons of 6 months and 6 months to 1 year. They are great alternatives to investing in fixed income funds because of the tax efficiency. These are treated on equity taxation versus fixed income as debt taxation. Third, given that the returns are going to be linked to more or less a risk-free return, your return expectation has to align yourself to what are the short-term interest rates prevailing in the economy. So, for example, if you have to go and buy a 6 month to 1 year fixed deposit and the rates of return are X, your returns have to be centering around that X. It can't be saying, no, I'll get 2X in arbitrage, because relatively you're carrying less risk. You can't obviously carry less risk and get more return. Such a market never exists.
Correct. So basically the point is that the pre-tax returns would be somewhere similar to the fixed deposit rate, but post-tax return will be fairly higher, given that arbitrage would have equity taxation of 10%. Versus say a fixed deposit that will be having a slab rate, your marginal tax rate implication, and hence the post-tax returns can be much better. Correct?
So the tax rates are actually 10% if held for more than a year, otherwise it's 15%.
Otherwise it's 15%. So yeah.
Which itself is, compared to most investors being in the 20 to 30% tax bracket, is a straight tax arbitrage.
Correct. Makes sense. Now coming to, so the return expectations are set. Now just coming to the point that there has been some talk that arbitrage funds typically perform well when markets are volatile. But then it can also be argued that the last few months have been very volatile, and only in these times there have been cross questions where arbitrage funds have probably being talked about as to giving much lesser returns going forward, and hence all the debate around arbitrage funds. So, what will be your take on that in a generalized
So
scenario
there are
versus a specialized scenario right now?
so there are two parts of the question. The first part I think is to a large extent right when you say that in a volatile market, arbitrage return funds do well.
Mhm,
And these days in a volatile market, the views of people are varying because
mhm,
50% might think market will go up, 50% will think market will go down, and hence for every underlying security there is a 50-50 mix of which group
mhm,
wants to sell, which group wants to buy. In a linear market, if everyone thinks markets is only going to go up, no one will ever want to short sell or buy
mhm,
depending on the direction of the market. Having said that, why has the scenario turned in the last 2-3 months? I think since March when the volatility increased, 3-4 things have happened.
mhm,
Firstly, I think the sharp increase in the margins on stock futures over the last 3 months
mhm,
has meant that most of the HNI slash the alternative funds and retail activity has shifted to the options market from the
mhm,
futures market,
mhm,
and thereby it has put pressure on participation in the futures market. That's the market typically arbitrage funds participate in.
mhm,
Second, the exchange has also reduced the size of positions that individual entities can take in single stocks,
mhm,
and hence again balance participation has reduced.
mhm,
Third, I think given the stock volatility as measured in VIX, FPI trading and FI trading has shifted to index futures rather than stock futures,
mhm,
which has again further impacted liquidity.
mhm,
And the last point is, like I said some time back, FD rates have been constantly going down over the
mhm,
last few months. And given that a significant chunk of your 35% is invested in FDs,
mhm,
as the rates of returns in FDs come down, your overall returns will also start to come down. So bottom line, one is margins on stock futures have increased, hence people have moved from futures to options.
mhm,
Exchanges have started reducing size of positions you can take in single stocks, thereby balance participation is reduced. Three, because of the increased stock volatility, a lot of participants have moved to index futures as against going into stock futures. And fourthly, fall in FD rates meant a fall in the returns from the fixed deposit or fixed income part.
Lastly, since a lot of people may still be very like, just to make it very clear to them, what should be the ideal holding period an investor, a retail investor, mind you, it's not HNI investors typically. So the retail investors, first time investors, novice investors who are coming to the platform and trying to look at arbitrage, what should be the ideal holding period they should look at, and how much should a investor put his money in arbitrage funds, as in what percentage of allocation?
So the second question is very difficult for a manufacturer to state.
Mhm,
We would not know the individual's risk profile, asset allocation, why he's investing. So for me to give a generic response would be tough.
mhm,
The first one is actually easy. We believe that arbitrage funds
mhm,
are best suited
mhm,
for clients with a 6-month plus horizon. These are great alternatives to putting money in fixed income instruments for the period as mentioned of 6 months and above.
mhm,
There will be volatility over the 6 months, so you can't expect a linear movement by investing today that every month I will get some returns.
mhm,
Interim periods there will be volatility, but over 6 months, as we've demonstrated, and if anyone does a little research, average returns fluctuate on a 6 monthly basis between 4.5 to 6.5 over the last so many years, but not that it will continue going forward. But 6 month period is a great period to look at.
got it. But lastly, if you can just leave our investors with what's your call on the arbitrage funds going forward from here, given the talk that has been around in the last 2-3 months, are those things sorted out now in the industry in general? And how should a investor go about choosing the right arbitrage fund? What should be the key things they should look out for?
So my suggestion or advice to clients is like we discussed in the questions is that firstly you have to align expectations of arbitrage funds to returns from corresponding asset class in the same interval.
Mhm, mhm,
It effectively means that if you are wanting to put money for
mhm,
6 months to 1 year,
mhm,
and most asset classes on the fixed income side give you returns, and this is just for discussion's sake, let's say at 4%,
mhm,
your expectation on arbitrage has to revolve around that 4%.
Got it.
As long as you are fixing your return expectation to that, I think we are well sorted and there are no issues of concern. I think where a lot of the noise on arbitrage is coming through is people's benchmark of returns still is pegged at a much higher level.
Correct.
When interest rates itself are at a higher level.
Yeah, true.
And that is normal psyche of investors that to benchmark something lower on return expectation is very tough to do, be it in any asset class. And so is the case with arbitrage. We continue to maintain and believe that an investment horizon of 6 months and more, arbitrage funds are still one of the better options to consider for all kinds of investors, be it retail, HNI, or institutional.
Okay. And what should be a key point one should look at while choosing an arbitrage fund?
One, obviously, one or two key points, and some of it you alluded to. One, what is the quality of the debt portfolio? For sure, you should look at it. Two, within the debt, you have to look at what is the average maturity and duration the fund manager takes, whether he's going long term and trying to take duration calls, or he's trying to run it like a short term fund. Three, what are the exit loads on the funds? All of this will come in to play when over the 6 month period. And that's a critical point. And last but not the least, does any arbitrage fund take unhedged exposures? That is, they just buy a long equity and don't hedge it. And that could potentially in a bear market take most of your returns off.
Got it. Thanks, Gaurav. Thanks for the detailed chat. This was very insightful. I am sure for our investors who would now probably start looking at arbitrage funds in a different light with all this information. So thanks for the information.
Thanks, Ankit, and thanks once again from Paytm and from all of us in IDFC for having us here, and look forward to many more sessions in the future.
Thank you.